Hey YouTubers, this is Jacques, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the best Fujifilm wedding photography lenses out there. Stay tuned. In my whole photography journey, I have been doing wedding photography. There are certain lenses out there that you want to use and certain lenses you want to use a bit less. There are two things I have to clarify before I start. One, the following is I really like fixed focal lens. What does fixed focal mean? It just means that the lens only has 1 millimeterage. Now that is as opposed to what is called a zoom, where you can change the framing of your lens. What I find is that a lot of times when you're working with a zoom lens, you have the practicality of being able to zoom in and out on your shot, but you lose quite a bit of image quality. So you have to make sure that the shots that you make are really exceptional and they are beautiful. So image quality, dramatic look, something that really pops, beautiful color contrast, that's what we're going to be looking at. Second point I want to mention is the fact that there are two parts to wedding photography. One is a pre-shoot where everything is staged, and there is also the actual event and the happening of the wedding. I will try to talk about each lens in their context and tell you why I prefer those lenses. When we're talking pre-shoot, we are talking about getting beautiful shots of the bride and groom. So we are talking about having a portrait lens that is ready to go with a far open aperture. I like to work with two focal lengths within the Fuji range. One is the 50 millimeter range right here. This is the 50 millimeter 1.2, which I do like a lot. The only problem with this lens right here is the fact that its focusing capability is not that great. It isn't quick and it's not that good. So I would not use the 56 millimeter f1.2 in a event environment where you need focusing to happen quick. But the focal length of 50 millimeter you're gonna need. You can go to the 50 millimeter f2 by Fujinon. It is amazing, amazing lens, but you might lose a bit of the bokeh because you have a maximum aperture of about f2. What you guys might want to think of getting is the Viltrox 56 millimeter f1.4. It is an excellent lens. You'll be able to go in, get into the couple, get the shots you need at the pre-shoot. You're going to get fast focus and it's going to be great when you're doing the actual event itself. The other focal length that I find great for getting those dramatic bokeh-ish looking shots is the Viltrox 85 millimeter f1.8. I just think it's a great lens. It's fast focusing and really fantastic. Unfortunately, anything involving 85 millimeter and 90 millimeter, you're talking about a very unflexible sort of focal range. You're going to have to back up a lot to get shots if you want to be a bit wide. Therefore, I would not advise it for the event. What I would advise for the event, it's the 50 to 140 f2.8 image stabilized lens by Fujinon. I would strongly recommend to have this thing. You can use it for pre-shoot because you'll be able to frame when you want to be impromptu. A lot of times when you have a couple that's very happy, have a lot of energy, you can actually get them to improvise. It's kind of fun to have a variable focal length to be able to frame different shots and let them improvise. But if you have a couple that's a bit more uneasy, you might not want to use that lens and you might want to just stage everything you're doing. So I would definitely suggest it for both the pre-shoot and also for the event. Now here's one of my favorites. I got to talk about this lens. It's the 16mm f1.4 by Fujinon. I suggest this for the pre-shoot, for the event. Before the event starts, it is a fantastic lens. One reason why is because it is wide, basically a 24mm full frame equivalent. It gives you great shots when you want to bring in context at the pre-shoot or at the event. It'll always be very helpful to have a couple of shots of a whole wedding table with everyone there, of the couple at the pre-shoot when they're in a beautiful environment, to get the shot of the environment. Let's say they're on the seaside. You want to get the shot of the couple, but you want to see the immensity of the seaside. Have that wide angle lens ready to go. But not only that, what happens with the Fujinon 16mm f1.4 is that it has this really fantastic quirk of being able to shoot really, really, really close up. And it gives sort of a, how can I say, a sort of a macro feel to some of your shots. So when you're doing establishing shots, photos of the bouquet, photo of the plates, of the napkins, of the setup, it's really a cool lens to have with you. It's really cool. And I would strongly recommend the 16mm over all the lenses that are out there. It is really a wolf in sheep's clothing. It kicks ass. And you always come back, and when you show these images to the bride and groom, they always freak out on those shots and say, wow. I have a couple of honorable mentions for wedding photography, and that is, I really do like the trilogy of the f2s in the Fujinon line for anything, for absolutely anything, i.e. the 23mm, the 50mm, and the 35mm f2, and I believe now there's a 16mm f2. These little babies right here are just fantastic, fantastic lenses. They're really small. The only problem with them is that you just feel a bit less professional when you have this on, and the client might think, well, maybe this guy isn't a pro when he has a little lens, but these things are just absolutely amazing for the quality you can get out of them. Another little point I want to mention to you guys is with the setups and the lenses I just spoke to you about right now, it is extremely important to have two bodies. You have to have two bodies when you shoot with the kind of recommendations I just gave. Because there's fixed focals and there's a zoom, probably at the event I would ask you to have the 50-140 on one body and the 85 or the 50 on the other body to get those close-in portrait shots. When you're doing the pre-shoot, I think it would be smart to have a 16mm on one body and the 85 or the 90 on the other body. And I think you can come out with some absolutely beautiful, beautiful shots. You guys, tell me what you think. Tell me what your lens setup is at your house when you start doing wedding photography. And please mention it, comment, like, share, subscribe, and don't forget, everybody, keep on making something from nothing.